Welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. We're a bunch of mega fans giving you the news, discussion, and of course, a whole lot of opinions about Brandon's works and the Cosmere. I'm Eric, and joining me is Ian.
Hey, I'm your writer.
Also joining us is Evgeni.
Hi, I'm Argent, and I was forbidden show and tell.
That's right, you are. Also joining us is Grace.
Hello, I'm Gator Girl.
And lastly, we got Ben.
Hey, you guys' name is Overlord Jebus, and I was actually going to go get stuff for show and tell, and then Eric said, "No, you're not allowed to get stuff for show and tell."
We got to record two of these. We got stuff to do. We got stuff to do, man. So we were like, are there enough Words of Brandon for a Words of Brandon episode? The answer is yes. There were quite a lot. So we're gonna talk about some of those. Brandon did a spoilery Q&A for Rhythm of War, so we'll get to that in these episodes. He's talked about maybe he's gonna do an AMA, so maybe by the time both of these episodes are out, that's already happened, but we don't know about that quite yet. So we're gonna start with non-Rhythm of War things, and so we'll have timestamps down below for Rhythm of War things and non-Rhythm of War things, and we'll do non-Rhythm of War first, and then we'll have some Rhythm of War stuff, and then probably the next episode will all be Rhythm of War. And important to know, WoBs aren't everything, especially these days, so important to know that we should not take these as gospel, that these are more secondary canon, and book canon definitely beats WoB canon. That said, some of these are still interesting to talk about, but, you know, Brandon is the person who's like, Oathbringer is an honor blade. No, it's not. It's just and other fun errors, but that's probably the most amusing one recently.
And sometimes Brandon just changes his mind.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's not in front of his notes as he's blabbing about these things, right? So, or around Karen. So that's what's up. So I'm gonna start for no reason in particular, because this first one is by Lady Lameness, my lovely fiance, in her signed Rhythm of War book that's right here. This is the book that it was signed in. And so she asked, Yasna and Shallan create objects out of ocean beads in Shadesmar that involves bringing them together like magnetic beads. Is this a form of the Surge of Transformation? Can this be done by other Radiants as well? And Brandon said, other Radiants can't do this. So I would say it is a thing of Surge of Transformation.
I would agree.
That is really interesting to me.
Super interesting, right? Great question.
Yeah.
It makes sense, though, like that.
It does. I guess I've always assumed this is similar to manifestation.
Yeah,
but
true.
Manifesting souls doesn't work like that. Like, because the thing that Shallan does at the end of Oathbringer, right, when she seemingly manifests a wall, like a brick wall from a sphere in her pocket, that is different from just like sculpting and shaping objects into like putting the beads together like Lego so they look like a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool. I love it.
Good question.
Yeah, excellent
question.
Eric,
you should marry this person.
Yeah, that's the plan. when she gets here, when she gets a visa, that'd be great.
So this one is from Vetterlin J. Has Vasher accomplished what he returned to do? If he has not, has he had the opportunity? Brendan, no, and not really.
Cool.
Interesting.
Cool.
Yeah.
Makes sense, I think.
Yeah.
Because it seems like Vasher is really a Stormlight character.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that he is still doing things in Stormlight, to me suggests that his
job's not done.
The reason he exists as a character is not done. So.
Right.
But that does confirm his purpose was not creating Nightblood.
That's true. Yeah.
Yes.
That is good. Yeah.
Very true. Yep. Argent.
Cool. Next question says, is there only one Sion for every given Aeon? And Brian says, yes, there is. Now, there's only 1 Scion for every Aeon, but there are Aeons that you don't know about yet.
This is so weird to me.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, this was weird to me as well.
Well, like, that just suggests that the creation of Scions is, like, extra weird. That, like...
So much on Cell is tied, like, because we've talked before about how Aeons are more fundamental, more primitive. Like, they're not just some expression of, like, Aeonic magic.
Right.
There's something, like, because they used to be a thing even before Elantris. Like, they're fundamental to the way magic manifests on Cell, or at least in Airlon.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But the details around the whole thing are so
super
interesting.
Weird to me.
Yeah.
Like this just made sense to me. I've always thought that there were a lot of Aeons. So the fact that there's only one per Aeon doesn't really restrict how many Scions there can be. Because
I just don't see a reason why it has to only be one Scion per Aeon. Like that, I don't understand.
I wonder if it's like some identity type of thing, right?
That's what I was thinking, yeah. Like it's the Aeon come alive, and so the Aeon can't come alive again.
Yeah.
Because it's already alive.
How would multiple Aeon Enis look like? Like
I guess.
Interesting though. Really interesting.
I mean it is very interesting. I'm just like, what?
I just don't know what it implies.
Yeah.
An interesting question would be if there is a Scion for every Aeon, or if some Aeons don't have Scions.
Ooh, that would be good.
Yeah.
That is a good follow-up.
That is a good follow-up, for sure. Grace.
Okay. All right. So this next one, the questioner asked, are there still 6 different types of Aethers in current canon, or has that changed? Brandon responded, they have expanded. I'm using the Aethers behind the scenes a lot for a lot of space age things. And because I'm doing that, I am adding in a few more Aethers. There's going to be some limits on this. I'm tweaking which Aethers I'm actually making, because some of them didn't work as well as other ones. There will end up being more, but I won't canonize the number until I have the Aether book ready to release.
Neat. I haven't read the unpublished Aether.
I was going to say, what this question tells me is that I should read Aether of Night.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad.
You can get it on 17shard.com and request it.
It's on my phone. I just haven't.
It's similar to White Sand, the novel, in terms of quality.
Yeah. It feels more like a Codex Alera book than a Brandon Sanderson book.
Huh.
Interesting.
Personally.
Maybe once we run out of Rhythm of War content, we'll do like Way of Kings Prime, Aether of Night.
Way of Kings like Prime's hard to read.
Yeah.
It's the same, but totally not. And it's just, oh man, it's really easy to put that book down and not pick it back up. Maybe someday we'll get there when we're bored.
Cool. This next one was sent in by Ryan. The question is, like how bondsmiths have stronger versions of their surges, is it possible to have stronger versions of the other surges as well? Brandon said, yes, this is what happened to Ashen. You can have some very dangerous manipulation of surges.
Makes sense.
Yeah, like we kind of knew that. That's
so
probably what happened to the Shattered Plains as well. Maybe. Who knows?
I still think that's very solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is, on one hand, this is kind of obvious. On the other, there's some interesting implications here. So what the bondsmiths do with, or what Dalinar does with Adhesion, is not necessarily a stronger version of the Surge of Adhesion, right? It is, in my eyes, it is a more complete version of it, right? So when a Mistborn, for example, uses the power of preservation, uses the powers of creation to do things, they are touching a very small aspect of that shard.
Right.
And obviously, when you go from a Misting to a Mistborn to a shard, the number of things and the quality of things they can do with that power just skyrockets. And so I think this is what we are looking at here. When the surges were kind of limited and constrained by honor, we get the thing that we see in all of the other 9 orders of Knights Radiant. And then without these limitations, we get something like bondsmiths and probably even more.
I mean, I still think bondsmiths, even when Honor was around, could do like spiritual adhesion, but I'm sure now they can do more things.
Yeah.
But like, basically, I agree.
But like the thing that Kaladin does in the Storm, like the Stormbreaker, Windbreaker thing that he does at the beginning of Oathbringer, that's probably the kind of thing we are looking at. Like he has a fuller control of the surge, whichever surge he's using at that moment.
I wonder if Shallan, like, drawing things happening elsewhere, like, you know, when she draws like Yalb and the crew coming up, whether that's something comparable as well, where it's more like these surges aren't just the immediate things you can see in front of you. They have like all this additional extra stuff that any region can do if they are connected enough. Yeah, good enough.
Oh, I think what Brandon is talking about here is greater than anything we've seen in books. I don't think we've seen surges unchained yet.
Yes. I'm saying in that direction, right?
Yeah.
So
it's a sliding scale.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of different events. This one's from the Tor Instagram live stream. Great.
Oh yeah, that was a thing.
my favorite Instagram. I get to be an old man and be like, "What's this Instagram? I don't like it." That's me.
Tune in next year when Brandon does TikTok dances as answers to Cosmere questions.
No.
It's interpretive dancing.
He's got kids. You know, it's going to happen. You know,
it's the raffle dance.
The questioner says,
I actually do want to see Brennan do a raffle dance.
The questioner says, would a macaw be able to be radiant, or do you need sentience? And Brandon says, you need sapience. Good. A macaw couldn't be radiant. A macaw could have different spren bonds, and he says, oh, that's kind of what's happening with Rashadium, and he says, or even most of the larger great shells don't have sapience, but a lot of creatures on Roshar have a step between human level intelligence and animal level intelligence, like Rashadium.
Isn't a macaw with a spren bond just an
AVR?
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah, I mean, kind of.
Kinda, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Rosharid would call them the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, Rosharans. Why are you making life difficult? Rosharid's a spread. I mean, yeah, I guess, but it's not.
So, next question. What effects does a spren bond have on a Rashadium, sapience or more? It increases their intelligence a great deal and gives them a little extra hardiness to survive in Roshar. And in exchange, the spren gets pulled into the physical realm, which they really like. What kind of spren is it? We still don't know.
We don't know for sure yet.
It has to be a music spren, right?
Yeah, it does, but I want it confirmed.
But I mean, that's cool. I think it's interesting that the spren like being in the physical realm. Like, that's kind of cool.
Okay. We have a question from a weirdo, 122, who asks if there's going to be a cyberpunk Mistborn trilogy. And I feel like if you look at Google Trends for the words cyberpunk, it skyrockets. It's definitely because of that, not for other reasons.
Yeah.
Brandon says he's toyed with it. It's going to depend on just how things shape out. If I am ahead enough on things, I will do an era between the 1980s and the future era. So that's going to be... Oh god, our terminology is going to be so messed up, right? But an era between Era 3 and Era 4, which for now we're going to call Era 3.5, but Brandon is probably going to call it Era 4, and then the space age is going to be Era 5.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's how it's going to end up.
Yeah.
Those are cornerstones that I can't get rid of. That's the 90s, 80s, and the sci-fi.
Right.
I could or could not do a cyberpunk, a near future science fiction. It's going to depend on how things are looking around when he's working on the back 5 of Stormlight.
That seems optimistic that Brandon would be ahead of schedule on the Cosmere. Just saying.
So I think it's going to really depend on how Era 3 pans out, right? Mm-hmm. Because he's writing those as a trilogy. We talked about that. He's writing those like back to back, and so it is possible that that's going to speed up his process sufficiently so that he like gets ahead of schedule. Not by a full trilogy, probably, but maybe we get like a standalone that then turns into a quadrilogy.
Yeah.
Right.
The usual. Yeah, I was gonna say from the state of standards in this year, it feels like we're going to be cutting back on books. We're not going to be expanding books from here on out.
I mean, I think just his side projects are just going to be more Cosmere, just like different sorts of Cosmere things. So it still like advances stuff, but he can do magic kites and
kite magic.
Yep.
Woo!
But like he's mentioned the cyberpunk possibility of a cyberpunk trilogy before, so it's like it's cool that he's still thinking about it.
Yep.
I'm always down for more, because the cool thing about Mistborn is that we're going to get these different time periods, so more time periods is just cool.
Yeah.
Especially
that is definitely hands down one of my favorite things about the Mistborn series. Mm-hmm. It's the same world. And like the whole concept of the mythology and the history of the world changing and like being essentially I don't want to say twisted and corrupted, but like changed in a wrong way over time. It's so much fun.
Yep.
It's like at one point he mentioned doing like a 1940s era where like they're going out and actually exploring the continents of Scadrial. Whereas like in 1980s, they're already sending up satellites and the world is known.
It feels like there's so much to do in Mistborn, I don't know. We'll need to see. We'll need to see how it works.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be cool.
You can imagine a different way, like an alternate universe where instead of getting 5 trilogies or whatever, we get like a story in the Renaissance era and a story in like the 1800s and a story in the 1900s and then a story in like 20 different stories that cover the entire history of the world.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But I don't think Brandon ever truly shelves an idea. I think he's going to be writing like space era and be like, well, when I finish this, if I have some extra time, I might go back and write that cyberpunk trilogy I was talking about.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
Cool.
All right. This next one was sent in by Aramis. Firstly, is there a general name to all the bondsmith spren, along the lines of the word honor spren for all the windrunner spren? In world, they're just called bondsmith spren. But Godspren isn't terrible for discussions, as it does relate a little to things like the God medals.
I think this was in response to some people calling it Godspren, but no, we're going to call it Bondsmith Spren, because I don't like Godspren.
Yeah, I was never a fan of Godspren. It doesn't feel right for what they are, and so Bondsmith Spren is fine.
Yep.
I feel like the Stormfather might be a little upset by Godspren, honestly. I don't think he'd like the term.
See, out of all of them, he's probably the one that's closest to.
I mean, yeah,
actually,
that's
being something that could be considered a god spren.
A spren of a god.
He probably, yeah.
I've never disliked the term, but bondsmith spren is the way.
Yeah, the way.
This next one was asked by Haverworthy. If Elend had been carrying a pole stone with him when he had his Duralamin enhanced ATM vision that transferred him to the spiritual realm, would it have become invested similar to if it had been exposed to a perpendicularity?
Oh, Cosmere spoilers, by the way. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. Man, that was a technical question.
Very technical.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. That's a good question. I think it wouldn't have, though White Sand would have been charged, which
I think that
makes sense to me.
I think that's correct.
White Sand gets charged just by any investiture being near him.
Yeah. Elend was actively doing things with magic, which means kinetic investiture, which means Sand would get charged.
But it's not like investiture that can be stored in a gem.
Yeah, like he's not opening a perpendicularity. He is seeing into the spiritual realm.
Right.
Yeah, like the spiritual realm stuff is happening within his head, I guess. Not like outside, where someone could touch it.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's correct. More stuff about Sand from Yo It's Thu. Sure. Are there deserts on Roshar? And if so, could the white sand organism spread? Just imagining how Sand Mastery might possibly migrate to Roshar. And Brandon says, the white sand organism could spread on Scadrial and on any planet, but it would need an investor to do so. It would be easier to spread on Roshar, for example, because of the storms. So that's cool. So if you forgot, the sand just has an organism that's charged with from investiture.
Like microflora.
Yeah.
Lichen.
So that's cool. I definitely believe that you could do that, although I suppose the sand would get blown around, so that might be a slight issue with this plan.
I mean, that would help it spread on Roshar.
I guess that's true. Well,
spread to the ocean eventually.
Yeah, exactly. Like it would just all end up in the sea.
Yeah.
Go
ahead, Grace.
Do we want to encourage invasive species, even if they are magical? I feel like that
Roshar?
would be a bad idea.
That's never gone wrong on Roshar before.
Yeah. Yep.
So this next one, there was an artist doing an A to Z, a drawing for every of a character or organism in the Cosmere for every letter from A to Z. And so Rectosaurus, also, is there anyone in the Cosmere I could make for X? Because if you check the cover mind, there was nobody for X.
No. There's the city of Zaka. It's a place on
but there's
not a character.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I remember the city of Zaka on Nalthus. It was mentioned once.
The only city that's a character is Elantris.
To which Brandon says, Zissis, he'll show up eventually. To which Sophandrius TW asked, I have just seen this and I'm curious. Is there any information about Zissis you could give us before entering Rapho territory? Brandon, not human, from Yolen, currently hanging out on a planet quite near to where you find a lot of the ethers.
This is a devilish wob.
Yes.
Feels like dragon to me. That's what I thought.
Yeah, not human. It has to mean Shodel or dragon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it's not a very Shodeli name.
No, not at all. So I'm gonna go with dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. That's not much we can talk about this.
Yep.
However, this next WoB, there is much we can talk about.
Ooh.
Nameless 36 asks, does Lift need to poop?
It's a good question. It's genuinely a good question.
Yeah, which is a surprisingly good question. So let's go into some interesting magical poop mechanics. Brandon says, Lift system is more efficient than that of a normal person's in this particular area. Less poop, almost none. I imagine it being like the one guy who didn't eat for a year, surviving off of body fat. And Nameless follows up with, why does Lift get hungry after converting food to Stormlight? If you don't need to breathe while holding Stormlight because it sustains your body, why would you need to eat? Brenda says, her body is a little confused at times. That's part of it. Also, she just has a psychological response to eating like many of us do.
I think that all makes sense.
I guess that makes sense to me, because even though you don't need to breathe, I think you still feel the need, I guess.
It would be hard to train your brain to not breathe, you know?
Yeah. They have to actively hold their breath. It's not something they do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hunger is a physiological and partially psychological response, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I thought this was a different WoB. I thought it was the WoB about somebody was asking. Yeah, somebody was asking if somebody with access to abrasion can just slide the poop out of them without needing to wipe.
I don't think that's on this list.
But that's the most important one.
No.
So this next one was asked by Gerbil, and he noticed that Taleb was an old blood, and that they are a previous dynasty that ruled Alethkar. And so they asked, I'm wondering if I'm reading too much into it, but are the Old Bloods perhaps descended directly from the Knights Radiant, whereas other Light Eyes are descended from a later non-Radiant Shard Bearers? Brandon, you're not reading too much into it. Old Bloods claim to be able to trace their lineage to Knights Radiant, but don't talk about that aspect of it as much because of the poor reputation of Radiants until just recently.
Old Blood lore, yes! We haven't gotten like any of that, so that's good. I like it. I like it. Cool.
Do we know what the Old Blood tattoo looks like?
I don't think we have any idea.
No.
It's like blue triangles on their cheek.
I thought it was I thought it was like a teardrop, but like a triangle.
I know it's blue. I don't know about that other stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't know if we actually have any descriptions of that. But apparently, according to the Coppermind, it's just a blue tattoo. But that article might not be done. But
yeah,
I mean, it was complete and reviewed before Rhythm of War, so that probably, if there was details, it probably was there.
Yeah,
a blue tattoo on their cheek, marking them as an Old Blood.
Yep. So we don't know.
Okay,
but it's blue. It's related to the moon. No, that's not it.
Probably not.
Cool. I like Old Blood lore because you forget that Old Bloods are a thing.
Yeah. How would that work though? Like, so we had a bunch of Radiants, right? Let's say pre-Recreants, and then the Recreants happens, and we get a whole dynasty that was descended from them, or would that have been, or would the Old Bloods have been like rulers of Alethela?
I think there's a decent possibility that this previous dynasty isn't actually a thing, and Brennan was trying to avoid spoilers. But also, it could just be they were the rulers of Alethela.
I can imagine that children of Radiance in the Silver Kingdom era are important, more important than other people because of the Radiance prestige. That's very plausible.
And they would have been more likely to get spread bonds themselves, which would perpetuate that.
Yep.
It makes me think, because like obviously the Old Bloods are claiming that they are lineaged from Knights Radiance, but that was like 2,500 years ago. And so to me, it's kind of like saying, "Oh, I'm descended from Vikings," or like I'm descended from Genghis Khan.
Like,
it's like
how much?
That's cool.
How much did these people like? I don't think they ruled like right after the Recreants, right? Like, I don't think that's true. I just think that at sometime post Recreants, after that initial period of chaos, there was this dynasty, and they claim that they have lineage from the Radiants.
Sure. Yeah. Also, probably before the Sun King.
Oh, yeah. Way before. Yeah, way before. Well, maybe not way before, but probably before things all split up, right?
See, I was kind of thinking that this was Alethela, and then after the Recreants, they went into hiding and couldn't talk about their lineage because everyone hated the Radiants, so it started doing this as like a secret symbol thing to kind of let the other Old Bloods know.
That's nothing like a secret tattoo on your face.
On your face.
Well, better than claiming that there. All right, we're going to talk about Rhythm of War stuff now. So, but
we can stop holding back.
Yes, we can stop holding back.
The Evgeni is the new odium.
No. But with that Zixis person, I think that's probably foil.
Yes, I agree with you.
Around the Aethers, with given the Ars Arcanum, that dragon, or we don't know that foil's a dragon, but I assume that is a dragon, and they want to find Aethers, and so that very well could just be another name for Zixis.
That seems likely, right?
I imagine dragons as shapeshifters have lots of different names.
Yeah, so I'm really fond of. It may have been Ian's idea. It may have been someone else's. That cultivation. So cultivation's name is probably some form of Corvellium of Ast.
Mm-hmm.
And which translates to that.
I don't know if it translates to that. I thought it was more a title, but I will shut up because we are trying not to do sidebars.
Yes, that's right.
But somebody thought that so the only dragon we know anything of note is Frost.
Right.
And so somebody felt that maybe Cultivation's kind of quote unquote English word name or like shortcut name or whatever might be Dews in the same. So like Frost would have a long draconic name similar to Corvelium of Vast.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if Xysis is is equivalent to Koravari. And so he still has a long draconic name, but he also has an Englishy name, which is Foil.
Yeah, right.
I cannot claim credit for this. This is the first I'm hearing of it, and I like it.
This is a really awesome idea for Frost's name, but for Foil, I'm like, your Corvelium of Vast is she who brings the dews at dawn, but is Foil like he who wraps his food in foil?
Sure.
Foil doesn't seem on the same level.
He wraps it in foil, Frost. And then he breathes fire, and then it's warm. It makes sense.
No, so it's the burrito
That's an
dragon.
aether. That's an aether, obviously.
That's what an aether is.
Yeah.
No, but like foil could be in like foil as being a foil to something or somebody.
Yeah.
You foiled my plans.
Dragon steel foil. Whoa.
He foils the plans of his enemies or something like that.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay, I thought you meant like a character foil, and I was like, man, that sucked to be like your entire name is based on the idea for like that your opponent you like reflect this other guy's story arc.
He's a comic relief dragon, actually.
Anyway, let's do some WoBs.
So this first one was asked by, I'm going to say Joaquin.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Does the hell know what fused are because of his biochromatic vision, or has he studied them in some other way? Brandon said, I would say both. More that he's studied what they are and learned about them. He has certain sensory things that definitely give him some advantages for various reasons. But I would say he's leaning more on his previous experience than he is on those senses.
Cool.
So I think this is
more that he just knows about them or know of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you go through Shadesmar, you can just talk to the spread. They probably have some useful information.
Hey, what are those guys?
Yeah. What's up with that giant storm around that other place? It's like, can you tell me about that?
Those?
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Questioner, does Gallant's eyes being rainbow have any Cosmere significance? And Brandon says, it's kind of an indication of his friend bond. It's a way that I was getting across that. A lot of times when you see kind of mother of pearl or rainbow shimmer of luminescence, that is an indication of something happening with investiture in the Cosmere. You see it in White Sand being used. You'll see it periodically in manifestations of the Nahel bond and that sort of thing.
Notable, the High Storm is described as having a mother of pearl luminescence in Shadesmar.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was about to ask, where have we seen Mother of Pearl? So excellent.
Yep.
Yes, how could I have forgotten that Mother of Pearl luminescence in the excellent White Sands graphic novel art?
I mean, you can kind of see it in some panels.
And I think on the spoiler live stream, which we're going to talk about more, apparently any Spren bond is a Nahel bond. I think that's what Brandon said, right?
Yeah.
So this, even if you're having a bond with a Spren like a Rashadium, that would still be considered a Nahel bond, kind of along this line. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Leaning into Nahel meaning divinity or bond with divinity or piece of divinity or whatever it meant.
Yeah. Not just a bond with a Radiant Spren.
Yeah. Which Brandon is calling Radiant bonds.
Right.
Cool.
So this next question was asked by a very, very smart individual. He's like really cool.
And humble. Very humble.
And humble.
Did we pull up my question
all
ahead
around
of time?
Amazing.
Did we pull up my question ahead of time?
No. So this was my question. It's in my signed book, which is behind my chair.
Great.
see, it's somewhere around there.
Nope. Still can't see it.
Yeah, I don't want to turn that far.
That's fine.
Were Starspren imagined by great shells, such as Titaina, Chasm Fiends, or Lancerin, which appear to have some level of sentience/sapience? Brandon, murdering all of my dreams, said nope.
Right, because
I'm legitimately upset by this.
Well, because
agreed.
Notum said not all Spren are imagined by men, right? So
yeah,
by humans, yeah.
I really like the idea that great shells dreamed of flying.
I mean, look at this thing. It's like it looks like a great shell.
Yeah.
Well, rip.
No, I am surprised by this answer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the way I would expect things to work, right, is I would imagine the weird horse thing that Notum rides and the other honor Spren ride are Spren imagined by Rushadium, right? And obviously Rushadium are not very they wouldn't imagine the breadth and depth of Spren that humans or singers could, but they would imagine, something here and there. They would shape Shadesmar in some small ways. And so I would imagine those horses to be what the Rushadium imagined, and I would imagine Starspren to be what some form of Great Shells imagine.
Yep.
I have a slight bit of hope in that I prefaced this question with, if it's not too much trouble, could Brandon answer this? And so some people brought up, oh, maybe he's just saying nope to answering it. But I don't think that's actually.
I don't think that's true. He would have just raffoed in that case. He raffoed my question. I thought because he's like, hey, I want to canonize all 16 shards, that I could get the last 2 shards, and that's what I.
Did you really think you were going to get?
Oh, not at all, not at all. But I had to ask, and he wrote Raffo 4 times on my Rhythm of War. So fighting the good fight, okay. But Brandon always trolls me. He always does silly things to my books.
Let's talk about some fun stuff then.
Yeah.
Kimberly asks, can you reveal something about Renarin that we don't know yet? And the answer Brandon gave was, Renarin has a crush he hasn't told anyone yet.
That was in a signed book.
I was in a signed book.
And so later in the spoiler stream, people asked about this. And man, it was real funny. Because Brandon just said, oh, I'm not trying to pull a fast one. It's who I implied to be. And the chat is going crazy. It's just right, the whole time. And Brandon's like, oh, I imagine they're probably saying a lot of different things in chat. And Adam's just like, nope, they're basically just saying one thing.
The funny thing is, Brandon asked, should I answer this?
Yeah, and Adam said
no.
What a jerk.
And then he's like, oh, the chat has it right. Not realizing he just inadvertently undid the fact that he told Brandon to Raffo it.
Yep. So putting 2 and 2 together, Renarin has a crush on Erlane.
Yep.
And it may have been in the same segment, it may have been a little later, but Brandon said something to the effect of my read of the situation was both of them kind of crush on each other, but they're not super aware of those crushes.
It's starting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he said their mind hasn't caught up to what their feelings are feeling just
right,
yet.
Yeah. It was something like that.
Something like that.
They're still in that stage where they're like, oh yeah, he's just my really good friend and I like him a lot because we're just such close friends.
I just think he's really neat,
Grace, why don't you read this next one? I feel like this is relevant.
So this one related to that says, any teases on upcoming LGBTQ characters? I put some hints in Rhythm of War. I should be making those canon by book 5 for you. But it wasn't quite time. I actually tried writing them harder into Rhythm of War, and they felt like it stood out too much. It was unnatural. So go ahead and begin your theorizing. It's not going to be a big surprise. I think that people will figure it out pretty easily. But I'm not intending it to be a big surprise. I'm just trying to let things like what happened with Yasna in this book come out naturally as they fit the characters. No big surprises, but for those who would rather read about it in the book when it happens, then I will leave it to book 5.
Oh, this has got to be Renard and Relaine, though. Like, come on.
Oh,
yeah.
So that's what it is.
So we're getting that next book? Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
very exciting.
That's very cool.
Okay, and I'll just take the next question because it's mine and reasons.
I'll allow it. Yep.
Okay, all in favor? Great, thanks.
Great. Seconded.
During the Tor Instagram live stream, I asked if intention and intent are the same thing, and I was hoping Brandon would go into more detail, and he went into detail, but not in the kind of detail
totally
I was hoping.
different. Something completely different. So your purpose was intention, like magic sort of intention, and intent, shard intents. Like that's kind of what you were getting at.
Yeah, because I'm trying to crack the whole intent and command thing from Dawn Shard.
That's why I still haven't written that video, because I'm like I still don't know.
Yeah. Like big questions like that, you can't necessarily tackle them all in one. You have to like get a wob and then get another wob and so on. Anyway, so Brandon says that he considers the two the same thing. Those are synonymous in Cosmere terms. And then he goes on and talks about
stuff.
a lot of other stuff. The more notable things is that he adds intent to Cosmere magic so that magical things in the Cosmere don't happen accidentally, right? You have to want to do a thing in order to do a thing,
right?
For the most part. And one of the examples he gives later on says, where the way it would work in the Cosmere, thinking of something as destructive interference actually creates for it a feeling, an identity as destructive interference. Where in reality, destructive interference, there's nothing inherent to it being destructive interference. So this is obviously talking about Navani's experiments with light and anti-light and tones and opposite tones. So a tone and its quote-unquote opposite are exactly the same. They're just two sine waves that are like one of them is shifted out of phase with the other. And so from a purely physical standpoint, there's no difference between a tone and a quote-unquote anti-tone, right? And so that's where Brandon can say, okay, I'm going to use intent to convey a magical like significance to this anti-tone, to this opposite tone, to make it do something else.
Yep.
There's so much.
You can read it on screen on this. It's like he goes on about talking about an intent is in a little adapter. I'm like, okay, Brandon. Cool.
Yeah, it's his way of making things happen for riderly authorial reasons.
Yes, and also the thing he ignores when he wants things to happen.
Right. Yes.
Accidentally.
That's exactly
without intent.
That's right. Yes.
Makes me wonder how Vin can burn pewter when she's unconscious, though.
Makes me wonder how Kaladin can lash arrows.
Well, those are the exact same sort of principle, right? They do it because they will do it.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Easy.
Oh, let's
use one mumbo jumbo to counter another mumbo jumbo.
Spiritual mumbo jumbo is the strongest force in the Cosmere. Okay, come on. We all know this.
I feel like there's maybe some kind of intention of like you have the intent of having the effect without necessarily knowing how to do it, maybe
like Vin's like, I want to survive, and the body's like, okay, that's how I'm gonna do this.
That's how I do it.
Kaladin's
like, I want
in Mistborn, like when they do feed her the pewter, like when she's unconscious, like they're not sure if it's going to work because like it's only after like you have experience with pewter that like your body knows that like, hey, if I burn this, like it will keep me alive. So it's not necessarily like conscious intent.
Right. I think that makes sense.
I love the example he gives is the anti-light because Roboniel, without knowing what anti-light is, uses the tool that Navani used to create anti-light to create the anti-void light tone.
Yeah, but so the intent is building in intents building the device. Yeah. That's why
so
there's
you can build an object with intent.
Well, I think that's why he's saying like identity, right?
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah,
I like it. It's just weird.
Yeah, this is definitely where we're getting away from real physics. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
A wizard did it.
Yeah. The wizard wanted to do it, so it did happen.
Yeah.
Funny you should say that, because every time I hear intent, I think of the Shazam character.
So now we get on to the Spoilery live stream, and we'll get to questions in a second, but it should be noted that Brandon immediately opened this, that it was like, this is Stormlight spoilers only. So if you want to talk about, say, Thydakar, you have to use the Stormlight only name because so many people wanted Thydakar Kelsier stuff. But as far as I'm concerned, even that immediate line, he knows what's up. Thydakar's Kelsier, come on. And then there were other allusions to Thydakar. Like, he's not trying to pull a fast one there at all.
At this point, he has gotten as close to saying Thydakar is Kelsier as he can say without saying Thydakar is Kelsier.
Like, if there's one cross Cosmere thing that you want to talk about after Rhythm of War, it is that thing, and Brandon knows that. Like, come on.
There's enough wiggle room that it could still be Kenton. Like, there's enough wiggle room there.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
But Kenton, well known for his scars.
Well known. Look, it's been a long time since Voice
and his status as a cognitive shadow.
Yes, that's right. It's Avatar, there's autonomy, so it makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
Anyway, Ben, why don't you take us in on this?
Yes, so that's me next. So Frodo Fighter asked, Kaladin sending out his armor to save other people, is that something all Radiants can do, or is that a Windrunner thing only? Brandon said, I will raffo that. Let's just say it's going to depend on a variety of things. Definitely other Windrunners can do it.
That is very interesting to me. I thought that would just be standard, but
I have a feeling it might. Honestly, my first thought was that he just hasn't decided whether he wants all others. That's like my honest. That was what I first thought when he answered it that way.
There could be some variance.
Definitely Windrunners can do it.
I don't think, say, Yasna would be able to do that. I think each sort of plate is going to have kind of its own unique abilities,
quirks,
and Windrunners being obviously focused on protection.
Yeah,
that is one of the things theirs is going to be able to do. I can kind of imagine maybe the Stone Wards being able to do something similar, even though their ideals have nothing to do with protection, right? But they're also soldiery types. Yeah. So maybe
I was going Edge Dancer, like.
It's like I think Edge Dancer could do it. Maybe Deathbringers, but
I wonder if the Edge Dancers would be able to like throw out their plate and heal some, like
some other weird
toss
effect,
them, not like cryostasis, but like throw a healing suit on them.
It's the best bandage ever.
Yeah.
Like could be
The Skybreakers can just encase someone in the armor, but like make it so they can't move, and they're just like basically in full body cuffs. Like,
that's basically plate's flexible, and we're gonna see it do cool things. That's cool.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, and I mean, it does make sense that the different Spren are going to be slightly different in their application in plate, so that makes sense to me. Cool. This next one is from Race Dog 2. Are heralds capable of procreation? Brandon, yes. Not necessarily saying in the traditional way, but yes, heralds are capable in procreation.
My mind immediately goes to the fact that returned, can procreate, but there's a trick to it.
The cognitive shadow stuff that we talked about,
Cool.
Which is obviously what the question is trying to get at.
Right, yes.
Which gets us not really closer to an answer.
Yeah, I feel... I mean, sure, there's maybe some intent shenanigans, I don't know. But, like with heralds being, like, having a body created for them, I don't know. I guess there's so much potential weirdness with heralds that they're probably their own thing. That do weird things.
Oh man, see, it's weird because they have a body, like it's their
right.
body remade, which made me now think could fused procreate as well. Like, or is that a no-no for them because they're also cognitive shadows, but they're in a body that still exists in the world.
Yeah, they
never died, you know.
Yeah, I think the fused are actually a really interesting example or question in here because they are still in a living body. Yeah. Whereas the returned have died and have come back to life. Kelsier has, who the hell even knows what body Kelsier is inhabiting.
Yeah.
The heralds get magically like recreated artificial bodies. Probably, maybe. So I think if any of you have an opportunity to ask questions, ask about
fused
Kelsier kids and fused kids, but fused more important.
Another potential similar interesting question is fused entering someone who was pregnant.
Ooh. Okay, so I've got it. Okay, so here's how we're gonna do this, team. Okay.
Oh God.
So we're gonna approach this.
I'm so sorry, Brandon.
Okay. So we take the route. We take the shipping route. We take a ship, and we say, "Hey, Brandon. Hypothetically speaking, if Kaladin and Leshwi end up together, could they have a kid?"
Okay. Perfectly valid question.
So we are tricking Brandon into thinking that we care about romance, when in fact we care about Cosmere mechanics and fused sex.
Yes.
But real talk, though, I do think that asking a question of if a singer is pregnant and a fuse takes them over, I think that's a good question. But I feel like there could just be, maybe this is like connected to the fact that like some people in world don't think cognitive shadows are that actual soul. It's just a copy of the soul. And so maybe for weird spiritual reasons, because we're in the Cosmere, that cannot generate new life and have spiritual DNA or some crap. Like it's probably some garbage like that, right? I don't know.
We talked about some of this stuff during the returned episode.
Yep.
So this next question is from Tom Goldthwaite. At any point in the Rosharan history, was it possible to form a Nahale bond without swearing oaths? Brandon. Nahale bond is the phrase used for a bond between a spren and a being from the physical realm. That is the definition of it. So the answer to that is yes. It's currently possible right now. It's how great shells exist and grow to the size they do. It's how Rhyshadium exists. Those are Nahale bonds also. What you're asking is if a sapient spren, a spren and a sapient individual, forming what we currently call the radiant bond, which has access to much greater power, was that possible without swearing oaths? Yes and no. The formalization of the oaths and the orders aligned with certain spren did take a little bit of time to come together. It was possible to form a Nahale bond before that, but it was not a radiant bond accessing the levels of powers that are currently possible. So it is another one of these yes and no answers, if that makes sense. You could find a Nahale bond. In fact, many would call the bond between the singers and the spren that give them forms Nahale bonds. It may not fit fully into the categorization that most people would use it for, but you could kind of call that the same thing.
I love this. Concrete definitions. Yes. What's a sliver? What's a splinter?
I want to give a shout out to Brandon for going, here's a definition, and then going, but this is not what you are asking.
Right,
So let me actually answer your question.
That is nice. That is the nice thing about a stream where he's like prepared to answer questions and he has time to ramble, because like this sort of Brandon rambling, excellent. Like this is the good stuff right here. So I think that makes a lot of sense. We kind of always figured that once the oaths were put in place, that allowed them to access more power, but you have that check of the oaths, so not anyone can do it. Whereas like a Surge Binder, the Surge Binders existed when the Spren started to form those bonds, but maybe it's more like Honor Bladey level as opposed to the Radiance, which can
they
do a
were
lot better things.
limited in some ways.
Yeah.
What exactly those ways were, subject to debate. But so let's just make sure we agree. One of the things this is saying is before the oaths, humans could bond with, let's say, Honor Spren or Cryptics or whatever, and they would gain some measure of power, and we would call that a hell bond. But then once the structure of the Knights Radiant was formalized by Ishar in some way, shape, or form, then the amount of power they got changed, as did the way they acquired that power, in like a tiered level-based progression.
This actually makes sense, because even the first time we got in a hell bond with Alakavish in that Nohadon vision, it's called Surgebinder and not Hellbond, just straight up in that. And so that's presumably pre-Radiance, right?
Yes.
Like before the oaths. So all this makes sense.
That flashback, was always the one we pointed out being like, was there before Radiance were they just Surgebinders with some lower level of ability?
And I think the answer is yes. So
yes, which is nice for me, because I always liked that idea that there was a formalization of the oaths after humans started getting powers. Like it wasn't
that the heralds needed to put structure on them because they feared Ashen stuff, right? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, a big question for me was always, what did Ishar do in terms of the Radiance? And so it does sound like there was
maybe with Honor
a bit more
than
just. Yeah, probably Honor was involved. Yeah, I always forget Honor was about. Like,
because he's
dead for so long.
Yeah,
I keep forgetting when he was around. For a long time.
I feel like it's just the trade-off that's like, hey, we're gonna have more regulation, but in exchange, you will get more power. So that's how we get people to agree to do this crap, right?
Yeah.
So Vishal Pani asked, why didn't Kaladin seek help from Zahel during the occupation of Erythriel?
Good question.
Brayden. Zahel, at some point I'll tell you what he was doing, but he was not available. That is a Rapho.
And Brandon continues talking about this, and it just basically didn't fit, and he might write a deleted scene kind of that's canon, but just wasn't in the book, showing what he's doing. But apparently we will see a little more Zahel in an upcoming volume of Stormlight Archive.
That there are moving pieces with Zahel, Azure, and Nightblood going on in the background that just there isn't space enough to deal with.
Yeah.
I wonder if Azure caught up to him after his meeting with Kaladin at the beginning of the book. And that's, there was just never enough time for him to be like, oh yeah, by the way, during all this other stuff that's happening, we see the Venerans Vasher again. And it's
because Azure is not in lasting integrity, clearly, so.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, so Vasher did address that, and he said that she would need to get out of Cultivation's perpendicularity first. So I would not be surprised if we actually hear about her in Horneater.
Oh, that's true.
Very, very good point.
Yeah. Although with the Oath Gates, I don't think that needs to be true, because like you can go through the Oath Gates.
Yeah, most of them are still locked.
Yeah.
My problem as well is that there's a year between Rhythm of War and Oathbringer, and she was on her way there a year ago.
Well, she was going to lasting integrity a year ago.
Yeah. Shallan heard about Vivenna having left lasting integrity a few months ago, I want to say. Although it could have been a few weeks back.
I like that maybe they meet up with her at in Horneater. I like that.
Who were the Windrunners that went with Rock?
The Scar and Drehi, I think?
Scar and Drehi, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like Drehi was also with him with the crew in
Oathgar.
Yep.
So so like he would know who Azure is.
Yeah. Cool.
So,
Yeah. That's good.
I really like it. I hope it happens.
I'm sure Brandon has a plan for all these characters and Nightblood. Clearly with Nightblood.
Yeah, it just sounds like it didn't fit in this book.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which sucks, because that kind of thing as an interlude would be the exact kind of like, I'd love those kind of interludes where it's just like random interludes. I like that stuff. So Luca Green then asked, Luca Green 18. If Szeth were to have drawn Nightblood immediately after he had consumed Race, would he still have drained Szeth's Stormlight? As it said, he seemed like he had eaten as much as he could. So at that, Brandon, then to paraphrase, then he said that Nightblood is basically in a food coma at that point, because he can get too full. It's one of the reasons he leaks is because he's so stuffed filled with investiture that he can actually hold too much. Like he wouldn't be able to consume an entire shard. He consumed a vessel, but he couldn't do a whole shard because he does get full. It's one of the reasons he leaks.
That's kind of cool. Makes sense.
I think one important thing to note is that Brandon says, and it leaks investiture, that it's done some weird things too.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. In the past, Brandon has like referred to the black smoke coming out of Nightblood as corrupted breath.
Right.
Whether that is corrupted in the same way as other corrupted investiture, we don't know, but...
Right.
Yeah, it's unclear whether Nightblood is like converting, let's say, Stormlight into like a weird endowment investiture type of thing, or if it's leaking like a weird Stormlight, like...
Yeah,
there's some weird stuff going on.
Yeah. I do like he uses the word supersaturated.
Yep.
That's a good word for being full of investiture.
Cool. Nice. Oversleep asks, will there be enlightened spren of other Radiant Orders other than Truth Watchers? And why does Jean not like Truth Watchers so much? And the core answer is that the Mistspren are the most willing to do that. And she considers what she's offering is enlightenment, not corruption. So they're fully willing.
Yes. Although outside observers might consider her methods less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine maybe there could be other orders that do that eventually when it's more common.
Yeah.
Would be cool.
Yeah.
Definitely need to see like what this enlightenment looks like at some point.
Yeah.
Because I think from an outside perspective, it is not going to look pretty.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if it's going to look forced. I don't know if it's going to look painful. But it's not going to be rainbows and sunshine.
Someday we'll learn more of this.
Maybe it could be compared to what Rabonio was trying to do with the sibling, and from the sounds of things, it makes it sound. It feels like you're dying.
There could be a relationship there. Inserting new investiture in there. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
And the sibling made it sound like it was a very unpleasant experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be something like a halfway process.
Yeah.
So not because the way the sibling was describing Unmaking was they were saying that they would essentially get killed, right? And then something else would live in their place. So this enlightenment might be halfway to that point where you become someone else, but not completely. Like you still retain some of your original personality and character. And actually,
we don't really know how much they do actually retain.
Yeah. In Jeannat's interlude, when she talked about how Odium might catch some of her children and unmake them.
Yeah.
Or unmake her. I don't remember which one. She talked about Odium destroying their memories, like in that context. So the exact quote is, if Odium caught her in a verifiable lie, he would unmake her again, steal her memory, rip her to pieces, but in doing so, he would lose a useful tool.
Yeah, talking about Jeannat herself.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So I do wonder if unmaking is like you blank out the thing and then you shove your own investiture in there.
Like hitting the reset button.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and then booting up into a different OS.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Dominic Field asked, would Lightweavers have plate made up of creation sprung? Brandon, yes, they would. You should be able to guess for the major orders that we've spent a lot of time with what their shard plate is made out of. There have been hints from book 1 what those are. Theoretically, you should be able to kind of put that together. You're not going to be able to do it for some of the orders because we haven't gotten much information on them. There's at least 3 or 4 of them that I've made very obvious.
And creation spren definitely attracting near Shallan makes total sense.
Yeah, and probably light spren for edge dancers.
Yeah, right.
Logic spren for elf scholars seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Glory spren for bondsmiths if they get
possibly.
shard plate.
Yeah, it is
if
unclear.
They got shard plate, yeah.
If they get shard plate, yeah.
Maybe
like
something like
Dustbringers.
Stone spren or gravitation spren or something like that for stone wards.
That's more speculative, but
stone wards are the one that I will like. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I don't think we know enough.
I think those other ones are all very plausible.
Like I've heard fire spren thrown out for Dustbringers as a potential speculative one.
Sure,
that seems likely.
Yeah.
Have we seen any weird spren around Venli?
Not really.
I mean, Ulim.
No.
But you know,
that doesn't count. Ulim plate, the most sassiest plate.
Book 7, Venli rips Ulim apart and he becomes the plate.
Deserved. He deserves some anti-void light stabbed right through him, let's be honest.
Yep.
The hardest one's definitely high spren, since we just don't know anything about what high spren are. Like
maybe in book 5.
Hopefully.
So next come a pair of WoBs that deal with very similar things.
Yeah, they didn't occur at the same time. I just put them together.
Did Odium destroy some of Wit's breath in the epilogue of Rhythm of War, or did he mess with it in some way? And Brent says, with Odium, what Odium did to Wit could be noticed. There is something missing there. It left an imprint, something noticeable, and he did actually remove and excise a little bit of breath. And then the other question that touches on the same thing, did Odium gain or remove some of the breaths? And Brent says he removed them, did not gain them. He excised them. He performed a little surgery on the breaths. You have seen this happen before in the books, though I will not give spoilers to another book. It happened on a different world.
So there's
that's obviously referring to Vasher's thing with the priest's daughter. Where he makes her forget.
100%. That's the problem with Stormlight only streams and things.
I find the repeated use of the word excised interesting. Because of excisors.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. A lot of people have been talking about that. And on one hand, it's a perfectly normal word, right? It means to.
It means what Brandon wants it to mean. Like, makes sense.
But also the fact that it's used, he uses it in 2 WoBs, not back to back, but like in the same event,
in the same stream,
and also the existence of excisors. It sounds, it is sounding to me like we're gonna start seeing this word a lot in the context of like cutting up a spirit web and doing something to it.
Yeah,
I could see that.
Spiritual surgery.
But slightly more precise than Evilurgy.
I mean, I feel like in Era 4 or Era 5, as the case may be, when we get there, Hemalurgy could become much more precise. Like they could figure out
very
to
possible.
make it a true science.
I mean,
even in Era 2,
stabby.
Yeah, right. So if we like, to me, this is interesting, but bringing up the excisors is almost more interesting to me, because I feel like there's a small implication here that Kelsier, or maybe somebody working with Kelsier, the Sovereign, figured out how to do more precise hemalurgy on the southern continent of Scadrio. And because, like, what do we know about the Excisor? Like, we know that they are instrumental in creating the medallions. And we've never really known anything about these artifacts, whatever they are. But it's beginning to me, it is beginning to sound like they are some, like, they're not a set of hemalurgic spikes necessarily, but they are a set of hemalurgic instruments that allow, like, maybe a more granular or a finer transfer of powers, so that the Southern Scadrians can move powers around in such a way that allows them to create these medallions in however way these medallions are being created, right? Because it sounds like there are several powers that are required for these medallions, even if we don't exactly know what those powers are.
Yeah.
Yes.
And with hemalurgy being the evil magic, it's only evil because we don't know how to stab people without killing them using it. Once you've kind of worked out how to stab people without killing them and gain the benefits of hemalurgy, then it becomes just another tool to be used.
I mean, Brandon has said that if you survive getting spiked,
it won't be nice.
It's not exactly pleasant for you.
Yeah.
I don't think hemalurgy is inherently evil either.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the difference between, like, getting stabbed with a knife or getting cut up and, like, performing, like, surgery with proper tools and a scalpel and something like that.
Yeah. Surgery is the art of stabbing people without killing them. You know,
removing elementic abilities is probably safer in the long run than removing, like, other aspects you can steal with hemalurgy that are more intrinsic to life.
Yes.
Cody Taylor asked, what was the scene in Rhythm of War that you had planned or thought of 20 years ago? Brandon responded, Kaladin jumping off the top of the tower to save his father into the storm. He's been working on that scene forever, basically, and it was a scene he was planning in the original Way of Kings. It wasn't his father in that because the relationship was not the same in the Way of Kings Prime. And it was probably Dalinar back then, but he doesn't quite remember because that was 20 years ago.
Yeah, we kind of were thinking that was the epilogue, but it was not.
That or Terravodium.
Yeah.
I was so sure he was going to be Terravodium.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like that would be one of the major big things that you'd plan way ahead of time.
Pillar in the Cosmere, right?
Yeah. It's a new shard being taken up. Well, new vessel taking up a shard.
The 0th Sanderson Law, they're on the side of awesome.
Yep.
Yep. So the next question was asked by Sophia, who asked, is Odium still influencing Vaya after all the Taravangian stuff? To which Brandon said, that's a Raffo. Odium will have interesting different relationships with a lot of different interesting people in the next book.
It is very interesting. I would agree.
Yes. I have a feeling that he probably still is influencing Fire in the same way, like immediately afterwards, because it seems Taravangian wants business as usual to be the kind of current line at the moment.
Yeah.
But that'll probably change for within the next book.
We got to get more Moash Vire stuff. Like, it can't just end here, right? Like,
yeah, that's not a conclusion to his.
Yeah, no,
like,
absolutely. No.
I don't know what the conclusion is going to be. Like, the conclusion might be that he just, like, we get a couple of interludes from his POV where he's, like, dead in a ditch somewhere.
Yep.
Though I do think the end of Moash's arc is going to be in book 5. I don't think he's going to be
That's true.
back 5.
Yeah.
Big showdown. Kaladin, Moash. That makes sense.
Oh, I just have no idea what you could do with Moash's character at this point. Like,
yeah.
It feels like there needs to be a showdown between him and Kaladin, right?
It really does.
Yeah.
I just don't know how Moash comes back from where he is now.
Yeah,
to the point where he is like an interesting threat to Kaladin.
Yeah.
Kaladin's pretty OP.
literally blind now. I don't know how well Moesh can fight without his
Easy.
sight.
You just need two spikes in your eyes. Done.
Well, so okay. No, to be fair, like Moash's fighting ability was never the problem for Kaladin, right?
Right.
The showdown, the confrontation between the two of them is more personal, more character, more emotional type of thing.
Mm.
And that can still happen with blind Moash, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to work out. Kaladin's going to Shinovar.
Yeah, like, is Moash going to go to Shinovar as well? Like
everyone's going to go to Shinovar. We got a big battle in Shinovar.
Terravodium's going to throw the guy there.
Yeah.
Just go be blind over there.
Want that book 5, man. That's going to be sweet. So the next question from Philip Denny. Is there how the sausage is made reason why there's 16 shards instead of 15 or 17? And Brandon said it splits real nicely on a table.
Yeah.
But he's like, I liked multiples of 2, and you can do that with 10, and so he likes the aesthetic nature of it. So he wanted there to be a large enough number of them that you could do interesting things, but small enough that you can keep track of them all. And he said, 16's about the upper bound, but you know, that's pretty good. But he does say that, you know, there's 10 on Roshar, 16 on Scadrial, but the Aether World is 12. Cool.
And 12 is a nice number.
It is. It does have some nice divisibility there. Yeah.
You can divide it by a lot of things.
That's true. Very true. So I don't know where we can go about that, but it's cool.
There's, as we said earlier, there's going to be more than 6 Aethers now. Maybe that's 12.
Maybe just 12 Aethers. Yeah, right. Exactly. With like 3 large groupings of 4, maybe, perhaps.
Yeah.
Group them physical,
or 4 large groupings
cognitive,
of 3,
spiritual.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Or 4x3 to match Allomancy better.
Yeah.
Or metallic cards.
Yep.
I don't know if we can talk much about it.
Yeah,
but cool.
neat.
Yeah.
Neat.
So this next one is from Flanny Buns.
Excellent.
My favorite kind of buns.
How can Siones leave their planet while Spren cannot? Which is a very interesting question.
Yes.
To which Brandon says, that is a big mystery in the Cosmere, so it is a Raffo. This is actively... The answer to that question is a big step toward doing what Mraize wants to do. And they haven't figured it out yet. There are lots of theories, and indeed, Elantris and its magic systems tend to be the oddball among Cosmere magic systems in a lot of ways. This is all related to how things work and the various things that are odd about the Elantris magic system. So I'm going to Raffo that with a, why don't you theorize along these lines? They are trying to figure it out, and obviously they do, because, spoilers, I have read things that indicate that this is possible in the future.
Yes.
This is odd because my gut feeling is that if I were going to choose one that was area locked, it would be the Elantris stuff.
It is
I
true.
was just thinking that.
Yeah. But the
it's weird.
Sions aren't for some reason.
It has to be the box, right?
Yeah, but I thought the box was more just like so the Sion doesn't bond the person that you have, right? Because there's like a Sion bond, right? And so
that was never my impression at all.
Yeah, that wasn't mine.
So
I mean,
so
I think that's part
there's
of
a
it.
couple of, I mean, maybe, but there's a couple of boxes in Rhythm of War, right? We have the box from the Artefabrian in the prologue, which I always assumed carried the spheres like from Braze.
Sure.
And the fact that there's a flower on that box is a little sus to me, but we don't need to look into the flower right now. And there's obviously there's the box with the Seon, right? Or the Seon.
Just to defend my point, Hoyd says that unbound Seons are very rare, right? So
yes.
I would imagine that you can't just like hand a person a Seon and just like, hey, go do whatever. So I think that is part of it.
It's my impression of that line was that like finding a Sion that doesn't already have a bond is hard because like they are very like prized commodities in the Cosmere.
Yeah, but I mean, if you got one of those, then you could give it to anyone, and I'm not sure you can do that with a bound Sion.
No, because the person wouldn't want to give up the Sion.
Yeah, so I think both of these play into this, right? So first of all, you need to find a free Sion, and if you were on Cell, you could just hand that Sion to somebody, and you could do exactly the same thing you're doing in Rhythm of War. You could have a smartphone.
Yeah.
However, if you want to do that trick outside of Cell, then you need the box on top, well, not on top of, but like around the unbound Sion. And then you can hand somebody a smartphone and be like, okay, yeah, here's, you can do the thing.
See, my impression of the box is that it was always just like obfuscation, where it was just, it was just trying to hide the fact of what it was. It was like, I'm giving you a box that talks.
Yeah.
The fact it doesn't allow you to bond it and was just a happy coincidence of the fact that you don't know what's in the box. So you don't know that you can ask it, hey, can I bond you?
Right. Like, I'm not sure if the box is a mandatory requirement. I kind of need to know. Personally.
Because Shalon coaxed the Sion out of the box at the end.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So
that was one of the things is like, oh, the Sion acts like an abused child who's like scared to leave the box.
Right.
Yeah, the way I read that was you need the box to like carry the Sion away from Cell. You don't necessarily need the box to keep the Sion away from Cell.
Yeah. The box is also weird in that Mraize is able to unlock the component with the knife remotely.
No, he just gave Shalon the instructions on how to do that.
Yeah, he told her where to press.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought she said she tried it before, but it wasn't like...
No, it's just because it's kind of weird. You just
it.
had to do a specific thing.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
It's like a secret compartment type of thing.
I think there's room for Seons to be weird because, like, they're not like Spren. They appear the same in the cognitive realm and the physical. That's weird.
Yes, yeah.
That is also true, yeah.
Right? So, I don't think the box... There's room for Seons to just be different fundamentally than Spren.
I could see it going either way.
Yeah.
So does Hoyd have a Sion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where is it?
That's a good question.
What's it doing?
That's a good question. That is a very good question.
Hanging out with Design somewhere. I don't know.
I guess.
He's
just never visible or thought about. Like,
I really hope it's a sassy Sion.
Yes.
I think that's the only kind of Sion that would survive being around Hoyd.
It's just the Sion and Design just constantly sassing Hoyd about big questions. So the next question asks about what it means for Kaladin to be close to honor, and how did that factor into him saying staying conscious while every other Windrunner in the tower did not. And the short version of the answer is Kaladin was as close to the fourth oath as you could possibly get without actually saying the fourth oath.
Right.
He knew what the oath was. He could speak the words. He just personally felt like, because like once you say an oath, you were committing to that oath, and he just didn't feel ready to make that step, to make that commitment, to let go of his kind of innate desire to protect people.
Yep. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Enceladus 47 asked, does Shalon's I killed my spren count as a truth?
Good question.
And Brandon responded, I'm going to leave that up to theorizing, figuring out the timeline that's going on with Shalon. What we can say is that Shalon is reconstructing, in many cases, oaths she has said before, and it is working slightly differently than someone who is saying a new oath. And indeed, saying she killed her spren is one of those steps. I'll leave it to you to try and parse through that. It's actually pretty complicated. We have a nice big page explaining all of this stuff internally to make sure that we're keeping it all straight. Because she has violated oaths and reconstructed them is basically what's happening. and she is regressing, and she's doing a 1.1 steps forward, a 1 step back sort of thing, kind of frequently.
I'm glad they have an internal page about that, because that you definitely got to keep track of, just like Gavilar's assassination, right? Like, all right, let's lay this out.
I hope to see that page one day.
We gotta get some answers in next book. We gotta get a next book for the most part, I think.
Yeah, this makes me wonder if there are moments when rereading now, like Way of Kings and Words of Radiance and Oathbringer, if we'll see moments where she is actively regressing. Because it seems like she's moving forwards and back constantly, like frequently.
Yeah.
So I was listening to the podcast of a friend of mine, Drew McCaffrey, Inking Out Loud podcast.
Yep.
He does with a friend of his.
Yep.
Rob Santos. And something that they noticed that I hadn't during my reads was that there's a couple of moments, there's only 2 moments, I think, in the first 3 books where Pattern is having a conversation with Shallan, and there are moments where Pattern is sounding sleepy or drowsy.
Yes, I remember this.
And I think one of them had a theory that when that is happening, it is because Shallan is either doing something or saying something or thinking something that is going contrary to their oaths, to their bond. And so it's not like she's breaking her bond, but it's like this very short, temporary regression, suppression type of thing. And if I recall correctly, in one of the episodes, they did cite a word of Brandon where Brandon did confirm that, this is the kind of thing that's going on.
It reminds me of what was happening to Syl when Kaladin was like in Words of Radiance, where like she started regressing because like he was at an impasse with his oaths.
A little less extreme, but I think very similar mechanically. Interesting. We're gonna do a Shallan and Testament podcast. That's for dang sure.
I've flip-flopped on whether Shallan is swearing oaths to Testament during the first 3 books so many times. Sometimes I'm like, no, that's really dumb, and then I read whoops like this, and I'm like, if she wasn't, it would be way simpler, and it wouldn't be as complicated as making it sound. So
the fact that like her new truths are reconstructing her old truths. It's like, what were her original truths that like
she hadn't killed her mom and dad yet? Like what?
I like butterflies. Well, they're not butterflies, but you know.
Shallan's so weird.
Yep.
Yeah,
she is.
Very weird.
Also, before we do the next question, for those benefiting from the video feed.
Ooh, very nice.
Here's a couple of Truth Watcher boyfriends to be.
Yes. Well, hopefully it works out.
Wait, do we have a version of that where it's like Relaine in front and Renarin in back? Because I vaguely remember something like that.
No.
Okay.
You're thinking of a different image. Those of you not benefiting from the video feed, Ellis Gardor on Instagram.
Cool.
Fantastic artist.
Cool.
So the next question was asked by Greg Andrew, who asked, did Radiants who broke their oaths prior to the Recreants also result in Deadeye Spren? To which Brandon said no.
Makes sense.
And even though it's in the book, it's nice to get clear like lines drawn under things in WoBs. It's like,
Yep.
Cool. I think we ought to just break here because we have a crapload more pages to do on these. So we'll do more Words of Brandon. I'm not sure if they'll be next week or the week after, but close. We might put a topic in between these 2 WoB episodes. But so I guess we ought to go on to who's that Cosmere character?
This character is from Roshar.
Menace. Tien. Tom.
Raise.
Void in drag on a horse.
It's time for who's that Cosmere character? Caw.
Welcome to Who's That Cosmere Character, the show where you guys send in 5 clues to a character, and these guys have to try and guess the character based upon the 5 clues, and if they get it, yay, and if they don't, they suck. This character was sent in by Lightwing888.
Ah, cool. Yep.
Clue number 1. This character has a nickname.
Kelsier.
It's not Kelsier.
Breeze.
It is not Breeze.
I'll go with Cultivation Slammer.
It is not Cultivation / Slammer.
I want to know the story about that.
Yeah,
I'm
I
looking
very
forward to
much
that.
do.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just a dragon just barreling into something or someone and just slamming a wall down or something. I don't know. It's plausible.
I'm really hoping it's just that she was a rebel and got thrown into jail before becoming Cultivation at some point.
Ooh, that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
It's really fun hearing different interpretations of Slammer, because to me, it's doing shots and then slamming them down on the table.
That's also
what
excellent. That's excellent.
I've been trying to make it work with well, she was the slammer, she was the jail in some way.
I'm gonna guess Shallan.
It is not Shallan. Clue number 2. This character is not of the race of humans, which is how the clue is worded.
Is it Human the Colossus?
It's not Human the Colossus.
Syl.
It's not Syl.
Tensoon?
It's not Tensoon.
I don't like this phrasing. It sounds tricky.
Frost?
It is not Frost.
Yep.
I think Hoyt calls him something else in that letter. Reptile?
Old lizard. Old reptile.
Yeah, old lizard, yeah.
Clue number 3. This character has interacted with a member of Bridge 4.
Okay, all
Is
right.
it Hoyd?
It's not Hoyd. That clue 2 would be very debatable.
Yeah.
I mean, Brandon has said it. It's technically, it could be argued.
A hard Inquisitor's human? I don't know.
Relaine, Shen.
It is not Relaine.
Yeah. What is Bridge 4? There's so many Bridge 4 characters.
What does it mean to be Bridge 4?
It means we've never actually seen them interact with someone in Bridge 4. They were just standing on the ship at the beginning.
They walked over the bridge.
God, I don't know.
Leshwi.
It's not Leshwi. What nickname were you going for there?
I don't know. I assume she has some title, though. Probably.
She probably has some title.
She probably does. But I was going for Moash was a Bridge 4 member and interacted with Leshwi, and this is presumably pre-Rhythm of War, so I'm power gaming it.
Yeah, Moash is the one I was
Yeah.
thinking of as well.
Because there's a lot of those singers that he interacted with.
I was also thinking of Naz, but he's kind of a human, so...
Yeah. Oh, I have a guess. I have a good guess.
Does Serious count if he's a real Kremling?
No, that doesn't count.
Arguably not of the race of humans.
I think I have a good guess.
I think I have a good guess, too.
I don't know, Eshonai?
It is not Eshonai. I didn't read these clues ahead of time, so I'm going to reword clue number 4 because it's a weird one.
Okay.
And it is not a race of humans is not a weird one.
So the clue they've written is... No, I'm not going to tell you what the original clue is. Okay. I'm going to say this character has had the second ideal sworn to them.
Oh, that ruins my guess.
The Stormfather?
It is not the Stormfather.
Good, because that was going to be my guess.
I was going to guess Rhyino.
Ooh. Are you guessing Rhyino?
No, because no, definitely not. No, clue 4, no, that doesn't work at all.
You don't remember that scene?
Ideal sworn to them?
Oh, it's Seth.
It's not Zeth, no.
Oh, yeah, he's a human. What am I talking
about?
I forgot about that.
Is it Nightblood?
It's not Nightblood.
Oh, good, Ian, because that was what I was about to
That's kind of what I figured, but I wanted to get it in case it was right.
Yeah.
But Eric, you don't remember that scene in Chazemar where Kaladin grabbed Rhino? It was like, I will protect those.
It's basically what he did, kind of.
Oh, I'm trying to think if this character has a nickname now. I'll just guess it anyways. Gliss.
It is not Gliss.
Whoa, nice. That's a good one, though.
Renarin is Bridge 4, but he's not like a Windrunner, so I felt like maybe it could be tricky.
Yeah.
I'll read you guys, once it's over, I'll read you the original wording, and you can see whether you agree with my interpretation of the wording or theirs.
I'm going to be so surprised if it's just like, no, you just garbled it and screwed us over. But.
Clue number 5 is this character learns a rude gesture.
Rua.
I heard
Grace
honestly, Evgeni and Grace at the exact same time.
I heard Grace first.
I heard Grace first.
Okay,
first. We're going with Grace. It is Rua, who Lopen sometimes calls Nako.
Okay. All right.
There you go. Right. The 4th clue was originally this character has sworn the second ideal.
That's not good.
Because that's not good. This friend doesn't swear the ideal, but they have. It's weird to word.
Yeah. I see why you needed to switch that. All right, this is acceptable to me. Cool. Mm-hmm. Nice.
Well done, Grace.
I will graciously forfeit my victory to Grace with no rude gestures involved.
I mean, let's be real. That was literally just a speed thing. Like we all.
Yeah. Like rude gesture. It's like Rua.
Yeah.
Lopen Spren, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, this second character was sent in by Caden Cutchins. So, clue number 1. This character resides far away from civilization.
Right, I know.
It's not right, I know. And I'm counting that as both your guesses because I heard it at the same time.
You'd think having a hive mind with Ian would benefit me in this game.
Not when I'm also on the episode.
I'm gonna go with the potion maker in Elantris who made Hrathen the potion that made him Elantrian for a bit.
There's only one potion maker, man.
That one.
Is
that
that
guy.
Fortran? Honestly, his name is Fortran.
No, it's not Fortran. No. It's not the programming language.
Because in my head, it always makes me think of the programming language.
I think he lives in Ravel.
It's not them.
HRO. Yeah, it's not them.
Yeah, it's not them.
Okay, cool. I don't know why my brain's like, yo, this random character from Elantris.
Away from civilization. Oh god, if this ends up being like one of the people who live in the roughs. What
if it's from the Aegis point of view, everyone in Alethkar is a backwater. It's just all lumpy. That would be a mega troll. I would approve.
The Shard who wants to hide and survive.
It's not the Shard who wants to hide and survive,
but I like that.
I like where your brain's going. Clue number 2. This character has refused to help a main character.
I'm going to go with Dryal, because the Sandmasters live in the desert, and he refused to help Kenton.
It's true.
Good guess, but it's not Dryal.
I mean, they do live in the city, so
yeah. I
am going to guess Menace.
It is not Menace.
I'm gonna guess Human the Koloss, who lived in the Burnlands before becoming a Koloss. His name was Vershad. Yeah. Bet you forgot that.
It is not Vershad, the Human the Koloss.
That's from an annotation.
Bold of you to assume I ever remembered that.
I do. I don't think we know anyone else who lived in the Burnlands in the Final Empire period, so I'm like, all right, there you go.
Kanpar the Kandra.
It is not Kanpar the Kandra.
What is civilization?
Clue number 3. This character has only appeared in one scene.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Great. No one we remember. Will it be someone we actually remember, Ben?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's good.
What are the clues again?
This character resides far away from civilization. This character refused to help a main character. And this character has only appeared in one scene.
And they have appeared on screen in one.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And you can count like 3.5 as you will have remembered this character.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right.
Is this Patchy?
Ooh. It is not Patchy.
You guys guessed right, I know already, right? That was your first.
Yeah, that was the first thing out of their mouths.
It's like, how these really all fit.
I thought that was like clever there. Well, I suppose I don't know if we've seen Patchy in more than one scene. I suppose that depends on how you.
One
Patchy
really long scene.
Yeah.
I was thinking like the letter, but I don't know.
Yeah.
No. I, much like the Spren, find it very difficult to leave Roshar.
I have like no idea. Like this is just so vague right now.
I have my next guess.
I need some more structure. I'll pass.
Away from civilization. Yeah, just in the interest of moving things along, I'm also going to pass.
Yeah, I'm also going to pass.
Yeah,
Cool.
I need something a little more tangible to work with here.
Like
hopefully,
this feels like we should have enough for interesting guesses.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just too
also
vague,
we're
I
just
think.
Well, I don't think they're vague. It's just that we need to scan so many different scenes.
Yeah.
So, clue number 4 hopefully should help. This character has a very singular thought process.
The Night Watcher?
Stick.
It's
Oh,
Stick.
darn
it.
Who got that
Good
first?
guess on the
I
Night
don't
Watcher.
know.
Ian got that first.
Yeah.
Yes, it is Stick. I thought I'd go for a fun one. That ended up being more painful for you guys than fun.
Yes,
Which should hopefully be fun for everyone at home.
Seeing our pain, yes, I imagine so.
Make a gif out of the silent faces that we have.
Just like,
I thought for sure the Night Watcher was like it with like not knowing how to help Dalinar and
yeah.
I think that would have been a good one. Yeah. Clue number 5 was this character can only communicate through the cognitive realm. So there you go.
That's
I was hoping you'd get
probably accurate.
I imagine there's cognitive stuff going on, whether that's
It did not speak in the physical realm.
but can it speak in the spiritual realm? That's the question.
I don't. I can nitpick that, I think.
See, that's why I was hoping you guys would get it on clue 4, so we didn't have to say the clue 5, so we didn't have to have the one of you could talk in the spiritual realm discussion.
All right. Well, we are gonna have more Words of Brandon either next week or the week after. And you can find us on 17shard.com for all your news, discussion, theories, and fun that you could ever want. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And if you like our stuff, you can support us on Patreon. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ah.